wrestling yesterday,
Yep.
and I got on his back, but I couldn't choke him with, oops, hold on. Where's that button? There. I couldn't choke him, even though I had my seatbelt right, and I just, for some reason, I couldn't do it, and so we were kind of at a standstill. He couldn't get me off of his back, and I didn't know where to go from there.
Okay.
So what do you do then?
Okay. So we always, there's a principle, right? So that's what I'm trying to focus on.
Right.
Whenever you're trying to get a specific move in jiu-jitsu, like that could be your goal in a roll to try to get a certain move, and you could practice getting it. But if you're rolling with the goal of winning and getting, achieving better positions and eventually winning, quote unquote, the roll or the match, you want to be willing to switch the move all the time. That's part of jiu-jitsu, and the philosophy there is conserve energy. So if I'm fighting for the same choke all the time, and she's defending it, and I'm working really hard, I'm going to burn my arm out just trying to get. And actually, I'll probably get less and less effective at getting that choke because I'm wearing myself out. So to be willing to move, I'm going to give an example of what you can do. This doesn't have to be what you change it to, but it fits in really nice.
Okay.
So if I have seatbelt, what she's generally going to do to defend the choke, she's going to grab the hand that's over the shoulder. Because I can only choke her with the top hand. I can't choke her through the armpit part, right?
Right.
I mean, I could probably get like an arm triangle, but it's a lot more difficult. Okay? I'd be better off doing that from a different position. So when they start defending this choke, usually with two hands, what I'm going to do is this one that's underneath, I turn my palm towards me.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, yep, now there you are. I couldn't see you. It went away.
The hand that's under the armpit, I'm putting palm towards me. Okay? The hand that she's holding on to, I'm actually going to pull that away like that. So she's actually kind of happy about that because I'm not able to choke her anymore. I pulled it away. I'm going to put it on the ear that's close to me and push her head away. Okay. Push her head away. My feet are going to come off and over. Okay? So now I have like one across her body and the other pushed on her leg, and it's going to replace my hand. I throw my leg over my hand. I can lock my hands here, put heavy foot onto the head, and lay back with the arm bar. So I get an arm bar instead.
Okay.
So I'm switching the move. Instead of trying to choke.
Well, that's what I knew, but I wasn't sure which move to do from there. I was like, this is ridiculous.
The other thing you can do.
Kevin's going to be, I said, I know that it's a move. Okay.
The other thing I can do is I can open the lapel and grab that. So now, rather than having to go this far, I only have to put my hand in the lapel. Now I can do a V choke.
Okay.
Did you were grappling with you were wrestling with the gi or without gi?
Without the gi.
Yeah. So if you don't have the gi, then you would go arm bar, something that you don't need the gi for.
Okay.
So yeah, just knowing other moves and then being able to switch from them. That's why a lot of times when I teach in class, I'll show chains of moves.
Right. Oh, I like that.
Thinking that way. I want you thinking, if this doesn't work, then I'm going to try that. That might not work, and then I'll try that. Because they'll defend the first thing for sure.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else?
Because I knew that the moves, so he wasn't sure what to do either.
Yeah, he needs to be getting rid of the hooks. So get my back. Back up.
Okay.
So he needs to be able to defend the choke, determine which hand is trying to choke, and go to the other side, getting his back to the mat and removing this hook. Once he gets rid of that hook, stepping over, scooting his butt to the mat, reaching across the body, and shrimping into the armpit until I get side control.
Right. Okay.
So, and then obviously, as
Little.
the top person, you're going to have to prevent that while you set them up for other moves.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You got Tony, anything? No. Oh, he's muted.
like I want to add half guard.
Okay. You're cutting out. I know I got top half guard, and from there you got rolled out.
No, bottom half, bottom half, bottom half.
Bottom half, and what from there?
Just like it's like any kind of, probably like a sweep or something from there.
Okay. So bottom half guard, like just getting out of there, getting.
Maybe it's
Yeah, because if I'm in half guard, bottom half, I just want to be able to sweep it and get out of there.
Yeah. So I have 3 main things I show from there that work really good. Yeah, we actually went over it, but you show up later. So I get half guard. I'm on my side, usually hopefully on my elbow already, and getting an underhook. So I give my leg arm a ride on my leg, so I can get the underhook as I come up. Okay. She's gonna try to cover you. She wants me here, right? She wants to get me flat. So what I want to do is make sure that I'm prepared for that. So I'm gonna have my hand already on my leg. So when she tries to cover me, I have my underhook. Okay. Also, look what I do with my body. Right before she started to do that, I'm leaning like this. So not 90 degrees. I broke that 90 degrees. My chest is more square to the mat, one of the principles we were talking about yesterday, okay? And now, boom, I have my underhook. The reason I want to be more square than 90 degrees, more square to the mat, leaning forward or an acute angle, is so that when she pushes, I already have some resistance here, okay? My elbow's behind me. Another thing you can do, some people have trouble getting up to their elbow, so especially with the person pushing you. So what I do, swing it up behind me. So when she keeps pushing, she's actually driving me onto my own elbow. Okay, now I'm up on my elbow, she helped me do it. So the first thing we want to do, I take this leg and I step over the half guarded leg. That way I can take my bottom leg and pull it out in base, right? So it's, in yoga we call it pigeon pose. My foot's touching my knee's on the mat, and my other knee's on the mat. Both knees are on the mat. I have my underhook still, and I'm up on my knees. So now I can easily, if she has an overhook, shrug her arm off. See how I just kind of raise my elbow up, I'm holding the belt, and now I go to seat belt, right? From seat belt, I can climb and take it back, or I can drag her down and get the other hook. So that's the first thing I want to go for. So I'm on my elbow, hands on the leg, get the underhook, lean more forward than straight, right? Top leg steps over her ankle. You can even drag that out a little bit. Pigeon pose, so pull your knee in base. Okay. All right, so we're here. Now, I test this first. I try to throw off that overhook, and then I go seat belt. Okay. From here, we can take the back. I can climb, or I can drag her down. That's the first thing you want to try for. Reason being, we're conditioning them to respond to the underhook, right? Whether that be someone in the gym that you train with all the time, or even someone in the match, you're not going to face them usually more than once. You may see them in other tournaments, but overall, we're conditioning grapplers to respond to the underhook so they don't get their back taken, right? That's the first thing we should go for, because that creates the response we want from people when we're going into half guard. So I got my underhook, I'm coming up, and now she's a little more educated, and she knows that when I go for this half guard and come up, I'm trying to get the back. So she overhooks my underhook. That's gonna stop me from shrugging that off, and I can't climb to get the back. It's impossible, okay? Same thing would be true if she had the underhook. So that's why I need to make sure I have it, right? But now she's overhooking. So what can I do? Is I start pushing into her. If you look right now at my leg, it's slanted. I'm not 90 degrees. I need my hand to keep my balance, unless I use a lot of strength, just to kind of balance here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push until my leg is straight up and down. Now see, she put her hand down. She needs that, but I don't. Now I can reach over, pull her knee towards me, her butt touches the mat. That's all I needed for the sweep. Now I want to take this leg out so I can pass. I'm going to push these knees away from me just to ensure that I'm on the back side of her side control and she's not replacing guard. Leave my hand through, get any side control. You can even go to knee on belly. It's whatever you want after that. So first you go for the back. Then when she's defending the back take, so everything was the same there. I'm trying to get the back and she's really overhooking strong. Now what I want to do is start driving into her. Okay. Once I create that point of balance where she needs her hand down but I don't, that's when I'm going to start pulling her knee towards me. If I can't reach the knee, sometimes I can reach the foot. So pick your butt up a little bit. Sometimes I can reach the foot, I pull the foot towards me. This is the same thing. Take the leg out, make sure you push that knee forward. That we call plan A. There is a variation of plan A that's called old school. We can go into that too. This is a little simpler. Okay. Plan B is when I try plan A and that one's failing. So Jamie, the same thing we were talking about, where you're trying one thing, doesn't work, be willing to change. So in this case, when I come up, can't get the back tracking. So what happens is, Rita, she keeps picking her knee up. Go to pick your knee up. All I need to do is pick up the leg with a single leg and drive it down. So you need your knee down. You need to drive your knee to the mat. It needs to be planted hard, or else you're giving me the sweep. Okay. I don't even have to do anything on the other.
Oh, really? That's new, guys. I didn't know that.
So I start coming up, and I'm pushing into her. Now she's driving back, right? And every time I feel like I'm going to be able to pull her knee towards me, she drives back into me and makes me have to put my hand back down. So basically, plan A is not working here. She's fighting me, I'm wasting a lot of energy, right? So what I want to do is I want to give one last good push, trying to get plan A. I really have to sell this, even if I like plan B. I really have to try to get plan A. And as she resists, my hand is going to go to the inside of her knee. I'm going to forward roll under her. It's like I want to push her knee to the ceiling. So drive, I wait for that resistance. Roll her all the way over. Now, take your leg out, push the knee away, side control. So that we call plan B. And again, the old school type of sweep also has a plan A, plan B. So we're just going to go over this one. Top leg goes over, still coming up. I push. I'm looking for that knee, right? She needs to push back, otherwise I go plan A, right? So I'm pushing plan A, okay, plan B. So that would be a good example of being willing to switch. So I hope that answers the question, Tony. So that's 3 things from from half guard bottom. First coming up, trying to get the back. If that doesn't work, try to get the sweep where you drive into and pull the knee. And then if that doesn't work, you roll them over. Well, you actually roll under them. So a forward roll, we're rolling under ourselves. Same thing on this, we're rolling under. We're not rolling that way. They're gonna fall over there, but because we create a tipping point for them to fall over. We're not taking them from here and bringing them over us. That would be a lot of work. We're slipping under them and they're falling over. If you can think of it that way, it takes a lot less effort. So let's go. I have not unmuted. So another example of switching, being willing to switch from one move to another, can be in, we call these on the belt test, double attacks. Some of them are triple attacks. But basically, it's I also call them lock flows, like flowing from one lock to another. So we have from the mount, you'll see on the belt test, the collar choke / armbar. What we're talking about here is if I go for the collar choke like we did yesterday, okay, getting my hand in there, she knows this is dangerous, okay? So she's gonna start reacting right away. See how she starts pushing? She's gonna use her hands. She's taught to strip the grip by holding with 2 hands and pushing it straight up, right? So, or she's just trying to make space so she can get that wrist off of her neck. So either way, she's bringing her hands up to do something with them. I'm gonna take my other hand, I'm gonna push her elbow into my arm, or basically towards her face. I'm gonna slide my knee up all the way around the shoulder, close to the ear. Okay. And what that does is now I've trapped her arm in place, and it's gonna keep doing it. So no, let's get away. So I scoot my knee by her ear. I've trapped her arm. My hand is still in the collar, okay? And I'm gonna swing my foot, and I'm gonna go into an armbar. And so I could finish the armbar here. I just scoop this up, roll my leg over, and get my armbar, right? But with the double attack, the reason it's on the belt test, it's not that I want you to necessarily, I do want you knowing that combination, but I also want you knowing like the principle of it, right? So I got this in, I'm going for the choke, starting a different end, push that across, slide up. Now, this way. So we're here, she's aware that I'm trying to get the armbar. So what can she do? She needs to get her elbow to the mat. That's how she's going to prevent an armbar. So what she can do is scoot her head that way and pull her elbow to the mat. But that opens up the collar choke again, right? So it's the back and forth of one move setting up the next. Okay, so we had collar choke, she defends, I push this, I go for the armbar, she creates space to get her elbow to the mat, which opens up the armbar again, or the choke again. Okay, so that's another example. Now you're in guard. So another real common example would be our armbar triangle omoplata flow, and we kind of use that drill a lot because it's 3 very common effective submissions. So the first, it could be in any order actually. So let's say I went for the armbar. That's usually what we go for first. So I get my wrist control, and I come under the arm. I bring my knees to my chest as I pull this across my body. Because one of the principles is not to reach across my body, because now I'm in a stronger position. You can actually go for the back here. We'll talk about that another time. What I'm going to do is actually wrap her arm. So I step on the hip, keep my knee squeezed against the shoulder. My other leg comes under the armpit, creating my angle. See, I spun my head. My back's flat on the mat, very important. And then my leg goes over the head. 2 hands on the wrist, I hip up, I'll have my arm up. But if she decides to defend by pulling her elbow out, now I have no armbar. I can't hurt this one by hipping up. But what I can do is open and catch her in a triangle position, right? So now I've got her head and her arm in the triangle position. We'll talk about that also later in the week. But now I can push the arm across, grab my own shin, step on the other hip, and finish my triangle, okay? Now, one way people fight the triangle that gives you trouble is they hide their arm. They could do that if you should push in posture. I could slip her arm over here. Some people will put their arm over here and they'll lock their hands under you just to hide that because they know that you need their arm across. You need the arm across so you get the shoulder into the neck. So they're doing this to prevent any triangles from happening. And we have ways we can get rid of this. If I reach under, I can break that out. Don't help me. I can reach that out, pop that out, pull it across, right? There's things I can do. But what we can also do is flow to another move. So if I just push your ear away, throw my foot that was behind her arm over the shoulder, and shrimp out on my head. Now I can sit up and get my omoplata position, right? So I can do a shoulder lock too. What she can do in this is she could posture back up and try to kind of roll me backwards, right? I can touch your head again. I can set up my triangle, right? If she tries to yank down here, I can set up my arm bar. So to be willing to switch from move to move That I think is a real big difference in jiu-jitsu than some of the other martial arts that grapple is the way they transition from one lock to another. The transitions, you know, we evolved that a lot in jiu-jitsu, and I think that's one of the things that's really interesting about jiu-jitsu is the flow of it and the evolution and all the different ways that we can get into all the different moves. And so I'm always fascinated by that, how I can switch from one thing to another, kind of trick somebody into thinking I want one thing and then going into the next, going into the next, going into the next. There's tons of examples of that. You know, we are basically playing with that every day. Everyone's coming out with new moves every day, and they're usually based on stuff that already exists. So the more weirder that it is, it's usually because it's based on people reacting a certain way. So someone comes in off the street or they're new to jiu-jitsu, they're not going to react the same way that you know, someone who trains does. If I get half guard with an underhook on somebody that doesn't know what to do, they're not going to overhook me. So you pretty much can count on getting their back every single time, you know, until they've been training a while. Then you're going to realize, like, hey, I need to learn how to stop them from getting my back. I got to learn what a whizzer is. I got to learn what an overhook is. I got to learn what an underhook is, you know. And then when they start to defend that, you can start getting into the fancier moves. Even though Plan A isn't too fancy. Plan B is a little fancier, but there's levels, right? You got a question, Alex? Oh, I thought I saw your hand go up. Anyone else have a question? Maybe a move that they defend, what you can switch to? Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't, I don't think of it like a lot. Was that a lot?
Yeah. You just show flow. Everything. Like
Yeah.
crazy. I know, Jay.
It makes it better. I couldn't write as fast as you were explaining.
Okay.
But it's okay. It's okay. I got the gist.
The main idea is being willing to change, right? When one move doesn't work, look for what the next move could be, you know, and if you can't figure that out, ask me, you know, and I'll usually be able to tell you what the best one will be.
Right. Well, I'm going to practice these. Yes, Alex.
Can you do step-by-step triangle?
Triangle, yeah. Yep.
Just step-by-step, please.
Okay. So it doesn't matter how we got in here. There's a bunch of ways. I was going to show a way using the sit out. That's, you know, just to show how to sit out can be used to get a triangle. But just to make things simple, we need one hand out. So what's usually taught day one is you're just going to push their hand to their stomach, right? And then the other hand is going to stay in. So this could be me like pulling her in, or maybe like a spider guard, who knows? And then I push the other hand to the stomach, and right as I do, I'm throwing my legs over. So we're catching what I call diamond position. Some people call triangle danger. We're not necessarily trying to lock up a triangle immediately, because it's not going to get as tight as it could be if I just kind of threw her arm across and locked the triangle. Like, it's not going to be as tight as it could be. You want a real tight triangle. So I start with diamond, just so I know she's trapped here, and I can start taking small steps to eventually get the triangle. My first goal will be to get her arm across, right? I want to get her bicep visually under her chin, right? If that happens, her shoulder is going to be at the neck. So I'm looking to get that. I don't have to start jamming this up into her face. I don't need to like yank it real hard across. I just need this elbow on the other side of my body, right? This is going to get trapped. Now, being that there is space, I might pull her head down a little bit just to be able to reach my shin, right? So I go here, and get my shin. Once I get the shin, and I took this off kind of fast, I should be more deliberate here. So I reach up, I got my shin, now I take down. Makes sense. This foot can now go to the hip. I can't take the foot off before I get the shin, because she can just posture and get out, right? But once I have the shin, I can take my foot off, and my shin and leg are keeping her in. Now I can push off the hip, getting an angle, just like I would an armbar. I want to be able to see into her ear. Okay. Once I got that angle, now I can throw my knee. Like you're gonna stomp on the ceiling and then fold your knee over the ankle. Don't just throw your leg over. Right now my calf is on my foot. I want to get a good extension there and then lock. And if you notice, she's tapping before I lock because I don't lock the triangle until I know it's as tight as it can be. So locking the triangle, all it does is like guarantee it locks in the tightness of the triangle. How do I put this? If you lock in your triangle prematurely, it's not as tight as it could be. You're going to squeeze it, realize it's not tight enough, and then you're going to unlock it, make it tighter. You're just giving them more chances to escape. But if you can get that diamond and then step by step make it tighter, once you lock, that's like your approval of your triangle. You're like, okay, it's as tight as I want it. I'm going to lock it now and squeeze. And so a lot of times people will tap even before it's been locked in. So steps are, you writing it down, Jamie? Steps are one arm in the guard and the other arm out. Right? Once that happens, I throw my guard over her neck and under her armpit and cross my feet. The next thing is going to be to get her arm across the body so the bicep is visually under the chin line. I don't want the bicep on the jaw. I want it under the chin, and that's going to line up the shoulder where I want it, which is against the side of her neck. But I know that because I can see where the bicep is. Once that's there, I need to get my shin. So if I can't reach my shin, that means she's posturing. I can pull her head down a little bit, reach up, grab the shin, and then I want to pull that shin down. The shin has a couple purposes to hold the shin. One is to keep her posture down, not to let her posture again. Two, not to let her out. Three, so when I get my angle, I can move my shin to where her shoulder is kind of out of the picture. When I lock this triangle, I don't want to lock a triangle where I can see her shoulder in here. I want to lock my triangle where I can't see it anymore. I don't see a shoulder in there. So holding the shin, when I get my angle, I can drag my shin in front of her shoulder and lock. My lock should be right in front of her shoulder. The reason that I want that is if I'm under, if I can see her shoulder, that means my lock is under it, and I'm pushing all the lat muscle and shoulder bones and everything into the neck. I just need something to press against the artery. It's not that big. So if I lock in front of it, I have a lot less of her that I need to squeeze to get into her neck. And so that's a couple of reasons to grab the shin. So then you step on the hip, right? That means you can unlock. You step on the hip. You get that angle we were just talking about. Now, you want to get your back of your knee over the ankle, not down on the calf, but under the ankle. And the squeeze is my knees coming together. I always use the thigh master as the example. You want to squeeze like the thigh master. You don't want to pull your triangle down, or you don't want to hip into it like an arm bar. And you don't want to bring your knees to your chest either. It's an inward squeeze. Your adductors, right? Like you want to touch your knees together. And that's going to push your thigh into her one side of the neck and her shoulder into the other side of her neck. And that's your triangle. Now the triangle, talking about principles, that's a leg triangle. We have arm triangles, right? The darce is an arm triangle. The head and arm choke is a triangle. The Walsh choke is an arm triangle. Anaconda is an arm triangle. And they all have the same principle. One part of our body is choking one side, sometimes the gi, right? And her shoulder usually is choking the other side. And that would be any arm triangle or leg triangle. Is the same principle. So all those chokes are really just one move We're just using different body parts to do it. So, good?
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah. What
I'm
else?
gonna go back to muting myself.
Any other questions? Do you have a question? No?
I'll let you know more after I wrestle with Kevin tonight.
Yeah.
Just remember to skate, whenever he's choking you, when they can choke you,
Mhm.
pushing the hand out, pushing the other one down, and put your butt on the side. If he's choking you, if
Well,
he's choking you.
she had his back.
So if you
I
have-
did. Well, he did end up getting my back. And as he was choking me and he wrapped his legs around, I used my feet to unhook his feet. And he goes, dang, that was smart. I said, well, I took me off guard. Anyway.
Yeah, you gotta know how to use your legs like their arms, you know? We have a lot of dexterity with our arms because we use them all the time, but your legs, there's people without arms and they eat their breakfast with their foot, you know? So we can use our arms a lot better than we normally do.
For real, they do?
We just don't practice with
I
them.
know, I've seen it. I've seen it.
So if you just
Whole new idea for toe jam.
think of using your legs more when you're grappling, you know, that you can do things with your legs. And then once you start learning how to use your legs, now, just like you can do two things at once with your arms, now add your legs in too. As you're doing things with your arms in grappling, use your legs at the same time they're using your arms, right? So I could be trying to trap a leg while I'm doing something on the upper body. I could be trying to trap an arm while I'm going for the key lock, right? I could be using my legs at the same time that I use my arms. And you'll start to be ahead of them, because if they're only using their arms, but you're doing things with your legs at the same time, they can only focus on one thing at a time while you're doing two usually. So yeah, use your legs and be aware of what they're doing, how, you know, the placement of your feet. Don't just let them lay there, you know. What else? Principle, switching. What's a double attack that you like? Huh?
I like everything.
You like everything? Yeah.
I don't have a favorite yet.
Okay.
Yeah, the mouse trap. I like the mouse trap. That's triple attack.
Yeah, the mouse trap's a good one. So here's the mouse trap. Is one that we do. Yeah. So the mouse trap. This one.
Mouse traps. Three things you can do when you're inside control, David.
So the mouse trap is when I get here in side control. So I can be working on this arm at the same time using my legs to pin her arm back here. That's going to stop her from doing a lot of defenses. I use this probably every time I get side control. So now she's framing here. I'm going to take my hand. I'm going to start going for a key lock. So notice my arm is already underneath. I'm usually holding their shoulder here, right? So this arm doesn't need to come out. I come up and I push this wrist down. Once my elbow's by her ear, now I can just put my hand on top of my own wrist. Just tap me. So I can just roll that out. It's no big deal. It's already under, right? So another thing in jiu-jitsu you don't want to do when you're learning moves is don't move something that doesn't need to be moved, right? If my hand was here for side control and I'm going for a key lock, I don't need to take that out as I'm pushing this down, because now I got to put it back, right? So when we teach the moves, we teach like the one thing to do at that moment. You don't need to do extra, because now my hand's in the spot I need it. But if I took it out, it would be, I'd have to do an extra move, right? And then the move might not be there anymore. It might be something that was necessary. So for the mousetrap here, one of the escapes that she might get me trouble with is just straightening her arm out and turning her thumb, right? If she keeps doing that, I lost that grip. So we're here, she's fighting and straightens it out and I lose the grip. If I'm too determined on keeping this
position, she'll probably get out each time she tries to do that. But if I'm a little more willing to move with her and she slides out, see, I just followed her. I didn't even let go. Go back. I just, instead of staying here and trying to keep it tight and letting the hand pop out, I just followed her. And I stop it right here. Now if I just flex the wrist, I straight armbar her. I raised her, I hyperextended her elbow with this wrist, and this one's pushing down her hand. And that's a straight armbar. If I miss that because she turns her thumb down, now I can lose it, right? Because that's the point of no return. But I can go for the Kimura that we did yesterday. So what I'm gonna do is, if I just take my hand out to grab the wrist, now she can do whatever she wants. Maybe she reaches across my back. Yeah, she just got an underhook, I lose it, right? But if so let's go back. So she straightens it, turns her thumb down, bends it. Now I lose it. But if I switch hands that are hugging her arm, now when I grab the wrist, it's still trapped, okay? And my hand is under to grab my own wrist. From here, I get my elbow to the mat. I start raising her elbow and shoulder, and I got the tap there. Yesterday, you might remember, we shoved this in, held the elbow, and I cranked that. It's another option, okay? One of the defenses I like is throwing my hand under my back. So she throws her hand under my back, under her back. Throw your hand under your back. Then I lose that grip because I can't hold the wrist anymore. That's when you can go for this one. So now, let's say we're going for the Kimura, but she straightened it. I can follow that. If she goes straight up, I hug, go for the wrist, grab my own wrist. I got the key lock there. So that's the mousetrap. It's like a triple attack. We call it double attacks, but there's 3 submissions there. There's more than that if we change the position a little bit. That's just an example of things you can do to go from one move to another. When someone's giving you trouble with something, you can switch to the next. Yesterday we were talking about this choke here, and she's fighting my hand so I can't choke. I pull that across, that's a double attack, right? Being willing to switch between the submissions. And it's gonna help a lot when you're having trouble. At all levels, you know, in the beginning, you're gonna get your moves defended a lot. You can switch to something else, they might defend that, but at least you tried. And then as you get more advanced, more advanced people are gonna defend what you're doing, and you're gonna need to switch. And then when you go against, if you're advanced and you're going against lower belts, you're going to want to do that too, because you're going to get bored doing layer 1 every time to the new guy. You're going to get tired of taking his back every time. So you're going to have to sometimes pretend he defended and then go for the next move, right? Just to keep yourself interested in the role too, you know? And then that's going to teach them how to defend. It's going to teach them what to do next if a person's defending. That's how I learned. Like, I learned my defenses first, and then I watched how the black belts I rolled with, what they would do to me when I defended them. They would always switch to another move. They would submit me a different way. And then when I learned how to defend that one, they would do the same thing the next time we rolled. And once I defended both moves, they would do a third one. And I sometimes get to 5 and 6 moves before we kind of ended up back neutral again, back in their guard or whatever it might have been, back where they're going back to their game. And that too, keeping people in your game. So if you're able to switch from one move to another, you're keeping somebody trapped in your game. If they're always defending, it's going to be hard for them to attack you, you know, because they have to worry about your attacks, you know. I had a wrestling coach that said the best defense is a good offense. And the idea behind that is if you're attacking, you don't have to worry about their attacks. You know, they have to defend you. So you don't have to worry about your defense. Alex.
Now I have a question. Am I unmuted? Okay. Can we talk real quick about that? So mousetrap, you got the key lock here, and then straight, and then when they put the hand underneath, when they hide.
Yeah.
So it's still the same. It's this lock, right? You can't see it.
Yeah.
And then the other hand is just covering up to the elbow, right?
Right.
And then how do you finish from here? I've seen it where, and I've done it where I've stepped around their head, but you did it without having to do that.
Yeah, you can do it without stepping over the head. So.
Sorry, Rita.
Be normal. She's trying not to let me kneel over her arm. All right, so her natural defenses are coming in. So I'm going here for the Kimura, right? And
Right.
with this one, I can get it, except she can sit up, and that's why you want to step over the head. But when they either throw their arm under there, or you could even bend it like this to where her wrist is really close to her hip. What I do is I'm going to shove this arm through further. She said ow already. So I'm kind of punching that through, and then this one runs up to here. So now my elbow is by her wrist. That's important, okay? This is not as important, the hand that punched through. If I hold my forearm or my bicep, I try to get forearm, okay? The hand that's forearm against the mat, I cup her elbow. That's just to help keep everything tight, right? Lock it in, I pull my elbow next to her hip and my other elbow under the shoulder. Everything's very tight. And now I'm not so much lifting her shoulder as creating space for me to push her forearm under her. Okay. If I lift just her shoulder, she took a lot longer to tap. If I lift her shoulder just a little and then push her forearm.
Okay.
So it's like a lift and then a shove, a lift and then a shove. Make sense?
Yeah. It's hard to do on a dummy.
Yeah, they don't have good joints.
It's not resistance. The resistance is wrong.
Yeah, the bends are weird, and
So that
the best dummy, and I don't know who makes it, so I'm not trying to like promote any of them. But the best dummies, from what I understand, have PVC inside them and actual joints. So
yeah.
realistic and posable.
So along those lines, the one that we were doing yesterday from top half guard, this step over and roll. You wouldn't do that here from side control, right?
Yeah, if my leg is not stuck in the half guard, then I don't need to do the roll, right?
Okay.
So I can get enough leverage because my leg's not stuck. It still helps to step over the head because that's going to keep them below, right? It's going to keep them from sitting completely forward. At some point, they're going to hit my hamstring, and I'm still going to be performing my Kimura, right? So stepping over the head is good, but you don't have to. Now, I like to have fun when I roll, so sometimes I'll put my leg in the half guard on purpose, so I can do the one where I step over the head. So you could always go back into that just to make that move happen, but you don't have to. Yeah.
Right.
I've already passed the guard. There's not really a reason to go back into the half guard.
No. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Tony.
Rita.
No, yeah, he looks like he finally got home.
Yeah, I got home.
Awesome.
One of the questions that I do have is like, okay, so replacing the guard, because for me, I'm not very flexible when it comes to my hips.
Me too.
So like trying to shove that knee shield back in is not easy for me.
Okay.
I was wondering if there was a different way or some modified way to help with
what do you find difficult about it?
Shrimping and replacing my knee shield just to get a knee in there.
Yeah. The top knee or the bottom knee? Which one are you trying to get in?
Top.
Top. Okay. So I see that a lot. I don't try to get the top knee in. So when I have guard, I see her between my feet or between my knees, right? So she's in my guard, okay? Whether it's closed, whether it's open, whether I'm inverted, right? I need to see her between my knees and my feet, okay? So if I'm replacing, she's trying to pass my guard, and I put this knee here. Unless I'm all the way here, I don't see her between my knees and feet, right? She's past that one, and this is only partially in front of her. Why that's important is because that means it's much easier for her to continue passing. If she just gets that knee out of her way, shoving it, passing it, smashing it, whatever it might be, she went the long way, but it's still passing, right? What my goal is, so she's passing, is to bring the bottom knee through. Now look, this knee's here, this knee's here, she's in my guard, right? So I've already stopped the pass. Okay? Sure, it's not closed, but she's between my knees or my feet, right? And the reason I say knees or feet, because butterfly guard. In butterfly guard, she's not between my feet, but she's between my knees. And it's a legitimate guard, very effective, right? There's a lot of things I can do here. But I need to see her between my knees or my feet. And a knee shield as a guard replace doesn't serve that purpose. It's slowing her down, but that's all it's doing, right? So I would change how you're replacing a little bit. So let's say she's about to, so let's say she's already got here. She's already pretty much got to the, and I'll do this from different angles. She's pretty much gotten past. This is like going on second one. What I need to be doing is framing. I should already be sideways and shrimping. I want to shrink to where I'm almost north-south. If I go too far, I've given her north-south, right? I don't want that. So I go almost north-south. There's usually 2 or 3 big shrimps. So when I shrimp, because I'm a bigger guy now, so I'm not like super flexible either, and my shrimping could be a lot better, right? It could be a lot faster. But what I do as a big guy is I make sure I get my butt off the ground. So when I push with my feet, both feet are on the ground. I don't kick them out into the air. I push my butt away. I lift my butt up and I extend my legs. That's the shrimp, right? What I've done here, spin. What I've done here is I've created a lot of space right here. Okay? And just for visualization, for the shrimp again, boom, boom, right? Now, what I've done, I create a lot of space. My frame hasn't changed. Sure, she's gonna be trying to resist and she's still trying to get on top, but I've created a real strong frame. Instead of trying to get my knee in front of her chest, I take a big step with it and I plant it hard on the ground because I don't want it to drag, right? What I'm about to do is pull my bottom knee through. So I stomp on the ground and I'm gonna trick her body like a lat row machine, right? Where you're pulling, you're doing a lat row, right? And you're working your lats. I'm doing that. That's how I'm gonna pull my lower body through, along with this step. So I pull, and I wanna shoot the knee so hard that I see it poke out the other side, right? So I see it past her tricep here, and past her thigh there, okay? My foot is still here. And I do hook it at first, because I wanna make sure that she can't go this way, and she can't go that way. That I block her to that bottom leg from passing my guard in either direction. I'm gonna push my knee towards her hip bone as I see someone show it this way too, and I really like it. It's hard to explain, but I'm gonna, like, see my leg. I kind of switch my hip, but also angle my body, because I'm pointing my knee, but I also want this to block her. And I do that, okay? So now, this foot comes out really easy, and I can close the guard. So we're here, she's passing, I'm framing, turning sideways. I make a big shrimp. You shrimp more than you need to, because they're gonna be fighting you, right? And so somewhere in there, there's gonna be a compromise. And so you wanna make sure you have the space you need to take a big step. I lat row, and I'm doing this with my foot, but it's stuck on the ground. I'm gonna pull my knee all the way through. Keep your knee close to your chest so you don't hit that. You want to make sure it squeezes right through the space that you made, right? And remember, they're coming forward, and you're guiding your knee through, and your knee has to get through before they close that distance. So the closer your knee is to your chest, the easier time you're going to have doing that through. Now my knees poke through. Let's change the angle here. So now my knees poke through here. What I want to do is I'm pressing it into her hip as I switch my butt out. This leg here is going to help with that. So I switch like that. Circle the foot out, and then I can close. So I would focus on getting that space you need. Instead of knee shielding, stomp the mat so you can drag the bottom knee through. Once the bottom knee gets through, you're pretty much safe. All you got to do is get your foot out, switch your hip and get your foot out, and then you can close it. But she's in your guard again. The guy's going to have to pass for those 3 seconds and have control for 3 seconds before he gets any points. So the knee shield is slowing it down. It is stopping the count, but it doesn't really have you any closer to guard. Getting the bottom knee through, he's already in a type of guard, and he has to deal with that now, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we could work on that when you come in. You could drill it too, you know, with if you get somebody there. Do you have a dummy in the back? No. But you could work it. You know, you could do that with, I don't know. There's different things I've done. Like I have dummies, but I used to use the big 130-pound dummies to, you know, replace guard with. You put the weight over you and helps you with the framing and everything. But you could practice that even at home and start building up that muscle memory. Because right now your muscle memories can get that top knee, right? And I don't know like who taught that. It might be a really big competitor that's taught that. I wouldn't even know. But I don't see that as the best way to replace. I was never taught that in all my years at Gracie Baja, and they've always taught what I just showed you there, right? And that has always worked for me, you know, when I was lighter, when I was this size, and I'm not the best shrimper. I hate shrimping. I tell everybody, like, I shrimp the least out of any black belt that you're ever going to meet. Like, I try all my moves, I try not to shrimp if I don't have to. But sometimes it's necessary, and that's one of the times that you need to.
Can you? Would you mind demonstrating how you would drill that with the dummy?
Yeah, with the dummy. Can you? You got one with legs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you bring me a 700 the small one?
Because that would be that's helpful for me too. But I was about to say, oh, Tony, we'll just do this when we get back. But if we can do this on our own. Yeah. Because that's something I need to work on too, Tony. So as soon as we get back, I'd love to drill that with you for a few minutes every class.
Definitely. I like the whole shrimping, the whole butts instead of like shrimping the whole pick your butt up and move.
Yeah, yeah. I find that once somebody tries to get around my guard or they're halfway around my guard, it's completely garbage. I can't retain it worth a damn. So I would love to drill that.
Yeah.
All right, so he has side control on me here. So this guy's arms, he has legs. Some dummies don't have the legs. What I'm gonna do is, obviously you gotta position him because otherwise he's not gonna be in a realistic spot. I have my frame in the hip, frame on the neck. Sometimes you'll have to hold them because it's just dead weight and you want it to be a realistic partner, right? This might fall over if you're not holding it in the right spot. So I'll like just kind of grip it, all right? I'm gonna go on my side, start shrimping. I gotta hold it up. But remember, the other guy is pushing against me. Take my big step.
Oh, see, okay.
Hit my knee through, and then there's my guard. That's good. Cool.
So you're actually just doing the actual move.
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah. There's not really anything better than doing the entire move if you can, right? If there's a position that gives you trouble, like a movement, I should say, that gives you trouble,
Right.
you could drill just that specific hot spot for like concerns of time. Like if you only have a half hour to work on something, and the move has 10 pieces, and you only got a half hour, you want to really just piece 4 is what's giving you trouble. You know, you could just drill piece 4 over and over and over. But if you
Right.
you have plenty of time, you could do all 10 pieces, drill the whole thing, right? So that's how I do it. You know, and then you could do little exercises with it. If like you're finding something's heavy, like on the arms, maybe you do just some bench presses with the odd weight, right? He's at an angle, and you can bench press it, and just to build up your muscles, your strength. You know, you wouldn't bench press it for the technique, but you're trying to build up your upper body. You know, we need to use our muscles even just to do that, right? So everything we do takes muscle of some sort. So it doesn't hurt to build up our muscle, but for the technique, you drill the technique, and then you could always build up the muscle around the technique as well. Not that you would use it when you're rolling, but the more you have, the less effort it's going to be, right? It's easier for me to pick up 10 pounds if I'm able to pick up 100. If I can only pick up 50, then the 10 pounds feels like 20, you know? So the stronger we are, the more fit we are, obviously it'll be easier too. But for the drilling, the technique, I would do the whole technique.
All right, guys. I see you
She's
tomorrow,
gotta go.
Brian. I gotta go, but Brian stays in here with you guys. All right?
What? I gotta go
Okay.
though.
I see you guys.
Bye.
I'll see you guys tomorrow again.
Bye.
Bye, Coach.
But so yeah, drill. I would drill the whole technique, and you could think of other. So like the neon belly drill is literally the technique of passing the guard to neon belly, right? So that's a pass in itself, right? You're actually drilling a pass, or you're just doing the switching sides. The reason we're drilling switching sides is not for the workout or just to drill something, but to learn how to switch sides when it's needed. The reason you switch sides is because the guy frames on your knee and shrimps, and you're going to lose that contact, you know? And so you're drilling how to switch to the other side so you can maintain those 3 seconds, you know, of control. So, so the drills that we have and do, a lot of them are, we try to get as much of the move as we can, right? But at the same time, it's a drill to keep things short. So if you're short on time, like in a warm-up, you know, you just drill the most important parts that people need to work on, you know. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. And you know, you frame as much as possible, but hold it if you need to, right? And just be aware if it was a real person, you wouldn't hold with your hand because you could get wrist locked.
Yeah, this is ridiculously light.
Yeah.
So if I'm framing, I mean, I'm pushing through the garage door if I'm framing on it.
Right. Remember, your frame is just to hold them in place.
Right.
There shouldn't be too much of a push on it.
So it's like you want to frame and then just go to just shy of north-south.
Right. And the frame, so frames are not a bench press, and they're not getting scrunched up like this either. It's creating this space right here and maintaining that. So now if I move my body away, my frame stays in the exact same spot, right?
Yeah.
We hear Alex.
Yeah, I see him. I
All
see
right.
him. No, it's good. I
Let me
see
mute
you.
me.
Took the attention. So then with that space that I've created between here is where my knee, and here's something you can see with Rita, is my knee comes inside my arm, right? Comes inside my arm. So the frame created the space that my knee shoots through. So he can't stop my knee because my frame's in the way, right? My knee goes through there. Once my knee's through there, now my bottom shin is the frame. I can hold his arms now, switch my hip, and get the guard. So that's another key point. This knee
It's gonna shoot through there, not in front. It's gonna come inside my frame, inside the space that I made. Right?
Inside, not outside. Okay.
And that might be why some people throw the bottom knee, top knee instead of the bottom knee, because they're throwing their top knee over the frame, but it should be your bottom knee coming through the frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with the knee shield being a popular thing, it's good from half guard. With the knee shield being a popular thing, I think people confuse that with the guard replace. And somewhere along the lines, I got taught. I haven't seen too many high-level guys that I can even think of showing it. I'm sure there's somebody showing it. And they might have their reasons, but like I said, I've never been taught that way. I've always been taught that that bottom knee's got to shoot through, because that's what's going to get you guard, right?
Right.
But I see a lot of people doing it, you know, on the lower levels. But yeah, get that bottom knee through. That's going to change a lot. You know, I have weak hip flexors, so that's part of that knee coming through. So I make sure that my knee's already loaded close to my chest before. So once I frame, I get my knee in close right here, right away. So it's already there in close. I don't want to, it's hard to see from there. I don't want to be bending it at that last second, like right there, because then it's going to knee them or it's going to get blocked by them. And my hip flexor is too weak for that. I need to have it close to my chest already. That being said, when someone's trying to pass your guard, try to have your knees close to your chest anyway, right? So they should already be close. Because if my knees are right here, how are you going to pass that, right? You only have this little bit of space to try to pass. But if my knees are way down here, now look, twice the space. Bring your knees real close to your chest. When people are trying to pass, it's going to be a lot harder for them to pass. And then with the shrimping, right? Pick up your butt, move your butt while it's in the air. Otherwise, you have the friction of the mat dragging. It's a lot harder to shrimp.
Yeah, and I never even thought about it that way. And I think that's why I always struggled, because I always think of shrimping as sliding across the mat.
Yeah, you don't need to. Just raise the butt up, right? Same thing when you switch your hip, or switch sides. If someone spins behind me, I'm not gonna roll to face them. Probably never happen. I'm gonna raise my butt and flip my butt to the other side. So I create space under me and then swoop the butt through, right? When I want to switch sides. Because the friction of the mat is gonna be my enemy. You know? I'm beating myself. Then you got to copy it, you know, trying to add to that. So.
Yeah, like I said, I always learn something new. Take that one.
Good. Nice. We went a little over, but that's okay. I'm going to record this, and then I probably won't be able to put it up right away. Yesterday, it took forever to record it. Like, it's got to convert to MP4. So I'll probably put it up sometime tomorrow.
That's fine. So it gives me time to look at the half guard, because I was obviously driving when you were demonstrating it. So.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see that, so.
It's okay.
All right. Alex, anything?
No, I'm good. I'm gonna drill the things that we went over for a few minutes, and then. So what I'm doing with this is I'm doing. So what we did yesterday, what we did yesterday and today, I'm drilling once we're done.
Okay.
So I mean, I do it 10 times each. It literally takes maybe 10 minutes to go through everything. So that's what I'm trying to do with this. Just trying to get some mobility back.
Right. I think that what I'm trying to do this week is a lot of the principles, a lot of the thought process, because that's yield dividends when you start seeing other moves and actually start being able to put it to use. You know, you're going to have a different mindset when you're rolling and when you're watching a move.
Right.
Cool. All right, guys. Have a good
Thanks, Coach.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good to see you, Tony.
Good to see you, Alex. See you soon.
We'll be back soon, hopefully, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's the plan.
Have a good night.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow.